What's up, everybody? And welcome to the Press Box, your number one Razorback sports platform. And by the way, I want to give a special shout out to all my viewers who saw my last podcast. Special thanks to you guys for taking the time to view our content, and hopefully, we'll continue to keep you interested in our material as we move forward. Okay, today, we have a magnificent show for you guys. Today, we have a great show. But before we dive into it, don't forget to pound the like button and don't forget to subscribe to the Press Box 247 so you won't miss an episode that we come out as we drop it. But today's title of this video, here's why the Razorbacks 2023 football season was over before it began. But before we dive into that, I want to talk a little bit about the game last night. The Hogs dropped to 2-4 by losing 20-27 last night in Oxford, Mississippi, to the number 16 ranked Ole Miss Rebels. Another close loss. A lot of them over the last 2 years. So my question to you guys, would you rather watch your team continuously lose close games, or would you just be content with just knowing that you just got whipped and you just wasn't good enough? It won't be any wonder. But I'll tell you this though, as a fan, it rips your heart out when they actually compete and make you feel like that they can win. Like the LSU game and last night when they compete, and play good enough to win and they find a way to lose. Well, that's because the Razorbacks are a bad team. And I've been reluctant to say that despite everything that's been happening. But if you consistently find ways to lose games, you are bad. Bad teams don't always get dominated. They lose close ones. They lose games that they don't show up, like Texas A&M. You know, we lose those too. But that's our reality um, right now at this point in time. So, I mean, I still root for them. I mean, I'm a fan. I mean, but I can accept truth and I can accept reality. And the reality is that the Razorbacks stink. Hurts me to say it, but I'm a realist. So we'll slide into the show's topic. Here's why the Razorbacks were doomed in 2023. Here we go. Segment one, the culture. Last year, after week four, after week three, I'm sorry, Arkansas was on a 3-game winning streak and won 14 out of 24 games. So those were Sam Pittman's first 20, his first 24 games. And 14-10 is 58%. Pretty good. It's part of why he got the extension. The Hogs were ranked number 10 nationally last year by week four. And since that point, they've gone 5-10. So out of Sam Pittman's last 15 games, he's lost 10 and only won 5. That's 33%. That's even lower than the bar that he set. And check this out. Out of those 10 losses that he has gotten since last year when he was 14-10, 7 of those losses have occurred by 7 points or less. So you keep losing close games. I mean, nobody is that unlucky. especially when you're supposed to be good. And we go back to last year. Several players left last year into the portal, which we know that that's what players do. But still, when you just come off an 8-4 season and everything is going good, 9-4, I should say, because we won the bowl game against Penn State, and everything is going good. You just don't want to leave. I mean, you don't leave where it's good. So that was a red flag to me, but we ignored it. You know, we assumed that things would get better. Then you had coaches leaving. We know about defensive coordinator Barry Odom, who went to UNLV, a small mid-major, to be the head coach. So for somebody that would want to go lower, something wasn't right. That doesn't make sense. Something wasn't right. And like I said, they really swept it all under the rug. Like, we really don't know what caused the debacle last year. Because last year it was a bad debacle, with players and coaches. Then you had Kendal Briles leaving to go to TCU. Right where things were going good. Like, who leaves when things are going good? Especially when you was there to build it up. Then you had coaches fired. Jamil Walker, the strength coach, when Pittman blamed that his team wasn't strong enough. I knew by him firing that strength and conditioning guy that was a cop-out. That was not accepting accountability. And, I was surprised that Coach Pittman actually did that, because he always seemed like the guy that would accept accountability. But to fire a weight coach and say that he's the reason why our team was struggling, man, that wasn't cool. But things always seem to snowball and come back on you whenever you don't do things right by people. The offensive line has not been dominant since before they got beat last year against Liberty. You remember the big upset in Fayetteville when Liberty came and just, dominated our offensive line, like we couldn't do anything. And ironically, if we go back to that game all the way up to where we are today, the dominance of Sam Pittman's offensive line play started to, dwindle. And the one thing that we know about offensive lines and dominance is not just a physical thing, it's the cohesion and being together. And the team wasn't together last year. We can see that was evident by all the turnover and having to replace coaches and all of that. We knew that it was something wrong. Definitely, we knew that the locker room had issues, and most of those was with unity and cohesion, and the culture was definitely fractured. So I want to go to a link, an article that came out actually last year. Um, it's actually on the best of arkansassports.com. So if you go to the best of arkansassports.com and go to the archives, and if you type in Taylor McGregor's interview, you should get that article to come up. But if you can't get it, if you shoot me a comment, matter of fact, I'll put it in the comments. I'll put the link into the comments so that way you guys can pull it up and read it for yourself. But this is what ESPN sideline reporter Taylor McGregor had to say about what went on last year in the Razorbacks locker room. Taylor McGregor, who is a ESPN sideline reporter, and she also called the December 28th Liberty Bowl game between the Razorbacks and Kansas last year. So she got the opportunity to talk to Sam Pittman, and she said that Pittman said that it was the first time in his career where he would address the team and he felt as if everybody wasn't listening to him. This is what McGregor said on the Locked on Razorbacks podcast with John Neighbors. And by the way, I love that show. John Neighbors, man, you rock. If you watching, you rock, man. Keep doing what you're doing, man. I love the content. I love the delivery. Great show. But this was actually said on his podcast, so I'm sure John Neighbors remembers this quite well. She went on to say that he said that there were different voices that players was listening to within the program. So why are the coaches gone and he's still there? If he's saying this, so who were the other coaches? Maybe it was the coaches that aren't there anymore. So maybe the real reason why they all left at the same time was because of Sam Pittman, or what they, from their perspective. But we didn't get the truth because everybody kept that in the locker room. But as we look at the season and we see what we're trying to do with Dan Enos and trying to make him and KJ Jefferson and the offensive line gel with something new when they've been running something totally different for the last 3 years, 4 years, that don't make sense. They shouldn't even be in this position. But this is why you have a new coordinator. This is why you are forcing your older guys to learn the new system, and they're struggling with it. But this is why. This article was why. She said, adding an example of how that would play out would be an offensive lineman going to the staff member, maybe a strength coach, and complaining to them about an issue like a play call or complaining about playing time. Then that coach or staffer will reply with something like, hey, I understand you're right, instead of developing a plan to get the player better so he could earn more playing time. So that's a major dynamic to have. And again, yes, he hired new people, but still, just because you hire new people, that doesn't guarantee just a smooth transition. She said that the mindset that some of the disgruntled players are assuming with Pittman and the other coaches is, well, if I don't really disagree, or if I disagree with that, then I have the power to leave. So you should change your message to appease me. So this is what Pittman is saying about how he felt the players, looked at him. But that's the nature of football now. I mean, the transfer portal is it's wide open now. And maybe, you know, maybe everybody is not built to coach now because it's different. Players do have that leeway. So just different things that we can go back that we ignored because it was a new year. But as we seeing the same things happen, I got to go back to the root of it. So that's kind of like what I'm doing now. But anyway, um, I wanted to read that because it highlighted that there was internal issues. And here comes Dan Enos and here comes Travis Williams, which I actually love Travis Williams. He was a great hire. Players are responding to him, smooth transition, great hire, Sam. But when you have to replace two in 1 year, that's hard. So he was doomed to having to replace a defensive coach and an offensive coach, while at the same time you are expected to still win games. Now that'd be different if we talked it as if, okay, this year is a rebuilding year, so we're not going to hold anything against Sam. But we couldn't do that because based on how last year ended, we couldn't do that again this year. So this really puts him in a tough place right now. You know, looking at how things have turned out. So segment 2, the second part of why the season was doomed has a lot to do with KJ Jefferson. KJ Jefferson doesn't deserve to be the scapegoat. This is bigger than him. This is bad management from the head coach. This is bad decision making by the head coach by choosing to hire somebody that was going to change the whole landscape of the offense. And now your two best players, Rocket Sanders and KJ Jefferson, are inexistent, non-existent, I should say, in this offense. How can that be? Anybody that I get to call plays, you got to call plays good enough to make the best players produce. So how is that KJ Jefferson's fault? Totally. I mean, he don't deserve all this smoke. Don't get me wrong. Quarterback gets the blame when they lose and gets the praise when they win. It's the nature of the business. But what's going on now is it didn't have to happen that way. Because really, when Coach Briles left, if he was like conscious of his draft stock, he probably should have left with Kendal Briles because TCU's quarterback Max Duggar graduated last year. So more than likely, he probably being a 4-year player of Kendal Briles would have been the starter there running the same place and probably still looking good. But he chose to stay at the University of Arkansas. Why? Because of you guys, the fans, the culture. He didn't want to leave, and he believed in Coach Pittman. So I feel like by him staying, it doesn't seem right for him to, to get all the criticism from the fans when he probably should have left. But he chose to make a decision that was based upon feelings. And I'm big on the cliche facts versus feelings. Because we make decisions all the time. And people make decisions either by rationality, which is by facts, logic, and then we make decisions emotionally by how we feel. And most of the time, when we make a decision based on how we feel, especially if it's an important decision, we're going to make the wrong decision. So he chose his feelings as to stay here and try to learn the new system. If anybody know anything about football, you only are as good as your system. Every quarterback is only as good as the system that they're playing in. Malik Hornsby left because he didn't fit into the system last year. So I'm just saying, system matters. So for you to change the system all the way and make a guy that was running the system for 4 years learn a new system, you're setting him up for failure. That's what I'm saying. Like, Pittman did not have his back. There's no way that he should have had Enos here running Enos's plays without some of what was happening last year. If Enos was any good, he would be good enough to still incorporate some of the plays that we had success on last year. You don't get somebody that offensive philosophy is different from how your 3-year Mr. Everything quarterback is. You're setting him up for failure. Coach Pittman dropped the ball. He dropped the ball. Enos might be the best quarterback for Criswell. And Criswell is a sophomore. So he is for the future. So if Coach Pittman made the decision to get Enos for the future, then why couldn't he tell KJ that last year? I remember when Nick Smith signed and all those freshmen signed, and JD Notte of the Razorback basketball team was kind of flirting with should he come back or should he go. And there was a speculation from a source that's close or that was close to the Razorback basketball team that said that Coach Musselman actually had talks with Notte suggesting that he leave. Because he's looking out for what's best for his player. He can see that this player will not fit with this system that I have to play with these players. You got to respect that. Just like Coach Prime. I didn't, and I still don't agree with just, getting rid of people without giving them a chance. But the one thing that I would take from that is you're being honest with the player. You're not leading the player on. You're not selling wolf tickets to the player. And I think that if Pittman knew anything about football, then he would know that this system probably is not going to work for KJ, because I know what type of quarterback that KJ Jefferson is. And he's not a pocket quarterback. He's a dual threat run first quarterback. He beat you with his feet to set up his arm. He's always been there. So there's no way that Coach Pittman couldn't have seen that. Because I see that. Coach Prime saw that. So, but if he is somebody that didn't know that, then he still shouldn't be a head coach, because you have to be able to see players to know their strengths and weaknesses to know if a system works for them. So if he actually thought that KJ Jefferson, who was a dual threat quarterback, yeah, he had good numbers, but the playbook was scaled down so he didn't have to read the defense and, had to make audibles on the line and make offensive line adjustments whenever you see pressure, and being able to read coverages by looking at safeties and all the things that he struggles with right now. It wasn't made for that. We was running that spread offense, and there was only 1 or 2 reads in it. And most of the times we ran out of it. So I just think that Pittman, either he wasn't honest and knew that, well, KJ might not do good, but hey, I'm going to let him start. But I know that Criswell might be better suited for this offense. So either A, he knew that, or B, if he didn't know that, that's a shame too, because everybody should know what systems work and what don't. Either way, both are fireable offenses to me. So when I say that, I'm not saying he should be fired because of him not winning this year. The reason why he's not winning this year is because of the way that he handled last year. So that's why I say this runs deep. Criswell is a pocket quarterback. That's, he's a sophomore. So he is the quarterback for the future. But he chose to try to change KJ into a pro-style quarterback, which in the end could end up being bad for Pittman as well as being bad for KJ. I'm sorry, guys. Getting tongue twisted. But yeah, so basically, as I look at my notes, Pittman made 2 critical decisions that are still hunting him today. Has little to do with what's happening now. It's about what happened then. And this will be the reason why the Hogs will struggle. And ultimately, he will have to answer to these consequences as we move forward. I want to thank you guys for staying around and listening to this compelling show. I told you this was going to be a good one. This is going to be a real good one. So go ahead and pound the like button. Go ahead and give me a thumbs up if you appreciate that honesty, inside perspective that I gave to you guys. And don't forget to subscribe to the Press Box 247 so you can catch our Razorback content as we release it. So until the next time, everybody, take care.